very much, our panelist and moderator for the Retail Consumer Nexus. Now, ladies and gentlemen, currently we are focusing on the topics that are more relevant to our daily lives, from farm to table. Several countries have their own stories about food culture and local wisdom that affect the way of life, social norms, and also the supporting of the related industries, such as food tourism. Next, we will meet the two speakers from different parts of the world who will be sharing their own food culture with all of us, with both the Western and Eastern style, in this session called Tracing the Culinary Delight, the Global Food Culture Experience. The first speaker coming up for this session, he has built the future through research, education, and business, all center on the application of design thinking, experimenting with the world-renowned retro approach in higher education. Now, he is the director of the Food Innovation Program, trustee of the Future Food Institute, and the global leader of the Future Food Ecosystem in Italy. Now, please give a warm welcome to the professor, Dr. Matteo Vignoli.
Hello everybody. My name is Matteo Vignoli, and I am an assistant professor from the University of Bologna, Italy, and with Sara Roversi and a few other innovators, we founded Future Food Institute already 7 years ago, and I'm super happy to be here and present today the session Tracing the Culinary Delight, the Global Food Culture Experience, as we believe that food and culture are one thing. Future Food is an organization that is meant to preserve the planet through food. And we think that food is our best chance to take care of our ecosystem. And as you might know, last year, in a Nature article, we witnessed that all the human-made artifacts outweigh the natural one. That means that we, as humanity, are responsible for what is happening on our planet as we produce more cement, plastic, food, steel and other materials and objects more than human creates. And we think that we, as humanity, can have a positive impact if we change the way we eat. And people are at the center of this revolution because we need to enable prosperity for future generations. And how do we do that? We do that leveraging knowledge, as this is the most important asset we can master in our lifespan, and also through generation, as knowledge is what we can consider our legacy towards the future. The second is to change the future through innovation. That's why at Future Food we have initiative to involve companies and organizations to change their future and to ensure that through their actions they can shape a more equitable and just environment for the customers, but also for citizens around the world. But most important of all, we do that together, as community is the only way we can shape and face the challenges we have in front of us. We cannot do change alone. It's the basic of our journey that we do it together. I know in the past that there has been issues around the world that did not unite people, but we believe that food is a universal language and that everybody understands it. That's why food is the most important community builder of humanity. And that's why we think we should start from food to address the challenges that we have in front of us as climate change or sustainability in a prosperity sense. So food development has been always what we did as humanity. The first technology that we developed, fire, was meant to cook food. And we've been shaping and inventing food all across our history. In the Egyptian time, humanity invented yeast and discovered that if you leave yeast if you leave the dough in the air, then yeast will shape its form and will create new beautiful and delightful product, which is what we call bread today. So after that, we've been always changing the food that we eat to better shape our needs. And as bread has become the traditional way to eat, flour and to, accompany our meals, then we know that many other forms will help us in the future to exchange our emotions and to continue our journey on our planet. And this is the basic of what I am going to show you, that new product development, it's what shapes culinary delight. And as bread is the traditional form of flour today, as has been since 1,000 years, then new tradition will be shaped by what we invent today. As tradition and innovation are two faces of the same coin, meaning that a tradition is a very successful innovation. So follow me in our journey at Future Food that will show you how we create new food that respect tradition and innovates, in the challenges of today. So Food Alchemist is the initiative that we have inside Future Food to shape the future food together with the community, organization, and companies. So the background is food science, culinary arts, health science, but also design, architecture, culture, engineering. And we base our actions in 3 pillars, which is sustainability. We think long-term. We want to ensure that the future generation can still enjoy the food that we create. Tastiness, as without taste, there is no pleasure. And without pleasure, there is no community and sharing. So tastiness is as important as sustainability. And then health and nutrition, as we want to sustain our planet and ensure that future generations are always more healthy, and that the food that we produce, it's nutritious and good for the planet. So we have this initiative that involves a group of creative scientists, chefs, and gastronomers that do explore the possibilities of food and advocate for a better world. How that happens? Through multidisciplinary, actually transdisciplinarity. So through the connection of artistic, social, legal, cultural, health, technical, and pleasurable food. So let me give you some example of how this happens at the crossroads of all these disciplines. So we started from research. We wanted to understand what is and was the novel food. Back in 2007, we established the Food Alchemist Lab. And then we started education. We designed food experience for our guests in our living lab in Bologna. By the way, you are all invited, and as soon as this situation is fully resolved, we will be happy to guest you in Bologna in our lab to explore what we do. And then we started to help companies to build together a new way towards sustainability and tastiness. And we did that through science, but also through experimentation in our lab. And these are, the pillars of what we do. We are more than a restaurant, as we don't serve food to earn money, but we serve food to share emotion and to learn from our guests what is the link between the food that we produce, the novel food that we produce, and the culture. And we are a lab because we base our action in science, and we ensure that science guides our steps. But it's also a pilot kitchen, as we want to develop new products for showing to people that it is possible to create a sustainable, delightful, and nutritious product that can then hit the market. As without concrete examples, it's just words. So this is why we are not call ourselves food science, as we are much more of the science that is the basics of our action, as without the rest there is no food. So let me share with you what are our starting points to create food which is at the crossroad of innovation and tradition. So we start from understanding upcycling, especially through fermentation, but that's not the only way we do. We explore all possible ways to recover, restore, and give value to the food that was produced in the agricultural field. So especially vegetables, as in our living lab, we also have a restaurant. We collaborate with the restaurant to understand what are the things that would be thrown away. And we explore new ways to keep this product in life and in operation. So banana skins, the center of pineapples, coffee that was done in the bar, or skins of carrots, leftover pasta. These things are not waste. These things are food that we need to use to the full potential. As people in the agricultural field have dedicated their life and effort to bring it to our table and restaurants. So we have the duty to use it to its full potential. Sometimes company reach us with a challenge. For example, this company, which is a major player in the beer industry, probably one of the biggest, reached us and they say, hey, we have the leftover barley from beer production. What can we do? As of now, of course, we can use it to animal feed, but we believe that there are much better value to it. So together with them, we work with possibilities and constraints, and applying prosperity thinking. We developed from a flour. They were having this marvelous pasta that it's basically much more proteic than the regular one, and it's done through recovering this perfect ingredient for our health. And when you produce pasta with a different ingredient, what you're doing is you're doing food innovation, which means that you are keeping and respecting your tradition, but you're also innovating. And if you look closely of every food innovation we have in our, Earth journey, it's always like this: a bit of new and a bit of old. The new is to, progress and be current with times, and the old is what we recognize as, cultural and important for our, life. So that's why we decided to use it for pasta and bread, because this is really what people recognize as, as what they need. And through many testing, we had one just yesterday. People started to say, "Oh, that's normal. That's pasta, but better." And that's what we need to reach when we do innovation. It's not something, oh, sorry, I have to eat an upcycled food. No, it's like, wow, that's better than the old food. And that's, my wish for all innovation, that becomes a new tradition. We also focus on fruit and vegetables, as we believe that this is and will be much more the basic of our diet. We come from the country of Mediterranean diet. As you know, it's a diet that is mostly vegetable based. And also we think that the future of humanity will be based on the way we'll be able to treat vegetables and to reduce the consumption of meat and increase the consumption of vegetable protein. So that's why we dehydrate, we ferment, we ensure that vegetables can have longer life and could be used to the fullest potential. And sometimes vegetables are considered a side, some low value product. But we think that by using science, we can uplift the value of vegetables in terms of protein, of nutritional content, and also shelf life. And this is the only way we have to reverse the pattern and use meat as condiment and the vegetable as main and central part of the plate. And that needs to be gastronomic appealing, as without that there is no sharing and no pleasure in going around the table and sharing our meals. We also, you know, want to, you know, drive sustainability on the market. So we created several products that hit the market in the latest years by you know, working with industry that approached us saying, hey, we have leftover products that are not going into our main you know, offering now, but we don't want to throw it away. We feel bad. We feel bad every time we have to throw away part of the fruit, part of the pineapple, part of you know, potatoes, like the skin, and those are example of products that we developed that are wonderful, that are delightful, that are good for you know, us, and nobody will say, oh, this is actually recovered food. This is food that we should have always eaten, as you know, our ancestors did. They were not throwing away anything. They were using every part of every food they were you know, using. So indeed, this is even more traditional than what we were doing in the last century, which was, you know, throwing away part of things that we could really eat. So using, you know, creativity, inspiration, and our capability, together with industry, we were able to create new products that are saving food at every, you know, spoon that you, every bite that you have. We are also fond on the future of protein. As we know that we are growing as a world population, and that you know, we need to better understand and manage protein from vegetables. That's why our exploration through fermentation is to study the science behind protein extraction, and also you know, the enzymatic processes that can restructure protein inside the food through fermentation. And the thing that you see in the pictures are our experiment to create a different form of plant-based meat, which is, let's say, umami, and can be consumed as, you know, as a salami, or as something that we recognize as a traditional form of protein. We are also thinking to start our journey in the, you know, plant-based meat, but with a form that is more based on natural, you know, extraction of protein from vegetables. And I have to say that you know, this is a very exciting journey, as if we can, you know, give the same nutritional content of meat in a form which is easy to consume as currently meat is, that is probably one of the solutions that we can have to ensure that we have better future. We also work on beverages, and this is our experiment in kombucha and non-alcoholic fermented beverages. This is a very efficient way to use food that would be, you know, probably trashed, and using this, you know, ingredients as you know, pineapple, or the center of and the skin of oranges, or beetroot or other products that are as part of the kitchen preparation, you cannot use easily or wisely, into drinks that are adding value to your microbiota, then that's putting value and pleasure into novel food. And also, as alcohol consumption, it's not a foreseeable future for everybody. We want to have a more, let's say, shareable drink across culture and generation that has, the scent and the experience of crystal, glass that we can use to celebrate our meals. And of course, as I was sharing with you, we don't do this alone. We do this together with our community that is part of the lab. Workshop with the students, with citizens, with people that are coming and visiting our living lab in the places we have an active initiative, as in Japan or in Italy or in San Francisco, is part of the research project that we do together with industry. So you are all invited to share our experience of the future of food. It's also nice to have curiosity-driven research, as novel food once has to be invented. So as our ancestor, the Egyptian, discovered yeast when there was no idea of microorganism, and they were using it and cultivating it to make delicious bread that made them famous across ancient times, we have the same responsibility today. We need to build through our exploration food that tomorrow will be considered traditional. And future generation for that are great opportunities, as they are open to change the food they eat. They already did it. There are new lifestyles that some people consider, strange, but in various parts of the world, they are becoming the standards. Yesterday, our, Paco, the head of the, of the lab in Bologna, was sharing that in a product that we were developing for Germany, in that target of user, there was like 30% vegetarianism and veganism. So that means that if you launch a new product, it has to be vegan. Otherwise, you don't hit the ground. You don't, you don't win in the market. So you see, in Italy, it's still 3-4%, but it's growing. And this new lifestyle will become the traditional one sooner than what we think. As this is the future, it becomes the present before we even notice. And with that, I thank you very much, as it's always a pleasure to share this conference with you. And I wish next year to be in Bangkok all together to celebrate the pleasure of food.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your presentation. And I couldn't agree more that plant-based products has become more widely consumed by people around the world with more opportunities with the lifestyle of the young generation. So thank you so much for insights and everything that you have presented. Now, ladies and gentlemen, moving up to our second speaker for this session of the Tracing the Culinary Delight, the Global Food Culture Experience. We have our speaker. Please welcome Hidetoshi Umeki, Director of Toyo Business Agency Company Limited. He's right here with us. Please welcome. All right, we're ready for you.
โอเคสวัสดีครับท่านครับผมฮิเดโตชิ
Hello, I am Hidetoshi Umeki.
แชร์ไม่ได้เดี๋ยวนะมันเปิดยังไงเนี่ย
So let's give me a second. I'm trying to get something on.
สวัสดีครับ
Hello. Hello, everyone. Please give me a second. I am sharing my slides.
ครับผมอันนี้ทำเป็น full screen ได้
How can we get it full screen? All right, here we go.
กดตรง full screen ยังไง
Let's get it on the full screen.
ครับครับตอนนี้ full screen
All right. With this full screen, my apologies for the technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. All right, can you hear me now? I am Hidetoshi Umeki, and today I would like to present in Thai language. I am half Japanese, half Thai. My dad is a Japanese and my mother is a Thai. And today, so let me use my presentation in English, but I will be presenting in Thai language. All right. So let me present about the food ecosystem for global sustainability.
ครับ
And today's agenda, let me start from my personal history, and there are some stories that will relate to the story in my presentation today, and then the overview about Japan, and then the situation in Thailand, and then I will end with some examples about an ecosystem management in rice management. All right, first of all, again, I am Hidetoshi Umeki. I was born in Thailand and in Bangkok, to be precise. Then I went to school at the high school in Japan, in Tokyo, and I was graduated from the International Christian University from the College of Liberal Arts. And after I was graduated from the International Christian University in 1994, I joined Hidetoshi Corporation at the HQ in Japan until 2006. And Hidetoshi Corporation is a big trading company one of the top 5 trading companies in Japan, and I was in the food department, and at the time I was in charge of marketing and development of food and beverage. And back then I looked for foreign supplier to import products to Japan, and that was my job back then. And from 2006 I joined Netlock Company Limited. I was the founder and I was the director, and at Netlock I was working in logistic management and to develop alcohol market for Japanese market. Then I came back to Thailand in 2007 because after I have acquired more than 10 experience in Japan, I decided to come back to my hometown and I want to contribute to Thailand as my home country, and I wanted to contribute my experience, so I started a company called Toyo Business Service. I provide consulting services for Japanese companies in Thailand, and I took care of more than 1,400 companies in Thailand in the past 10 years. And another thing I did, which is related to today's seminar, was about the business development support for Japanese and Thai governments. And there I had an opportunity to be the advisor for Tokyo SME Support Center for Thailand branch office. And my job today is today I will represent the Tokyo SME Support Center, and I'll be sharing with you my experience on behalf of the Tokyo SME Center. And from 2017 and 2019, those 2 years I started an alcohol startup. It was an alcohol beverage manufacturer, starting from the factory design and product development as well as the product sales. And then I continued to work in the international brands and working as a director for import and export for food and beverage and supplements. Today I am in charge of business designing for Japanese business operators and to help working in collaboration with Thai companies. And I was working in R&D consulting for food and beverage and also bio industry, especially the bio products. And I hope that today I can share my experience from my business in business development and business design, the services that I provided to Thai and Japanese businesses for all of you today. And I hope that it will be useful for all of you and your businesses. And let me get to the second agenda, the Japan overview. Before I talk about Japan, so another very important point, which I believe that it is very, very important in the past 20 years of my 27 years in the food and beverage business development. I believe that for business, we need to think about the global market demand first. We need to know where the demand is at the global level first. And let me start by the 2 key trends in the energies, and that also comes with CO2 and environment, and then health products. And these are 2 key demands that I have found from my 27 years of experience. These are the macro demands for the global market. So environment and health, basically. Then today, from the global market demand, let's come to the Thailand as a country. What can we do when we know the global market demand, and what can we support from the primary production, secondary production, and tertiary production? So the way I work, we will start from the primary production and then multiply by 2 for secondary and multiply by 3 for tertiary production. This is actually part of the Japanese government strategy, the multiplication, in order to find the supply to support the demand for the global market, starting from the primary production to the tertiary production. So this is how we use as an example. It is one of our approaches and our thinking system. And more importantly, we also need to take into account the SDGs, 27 goals from SDGs. And also, I will share with you in a few pages about our approaches for food and bio and how we answer to SDG goals and how many goals can we really help support. Japan, as all of you know, we are an island country. We have very small areas for agriculture. And I would say that the majority of the land or the size of Japan, I believe that Thailand is 1.4 times larger than Japan, but the arable land for the agriculture in Japan, I would say that the flat land or arable land in Japan is 4 times less than Thailand. Thailand has 4 times more, and in Japan we have 4 seasons, and there are many natural disasters like volcanoes, like tsunami, like earthquakes and typhoon. And typhoon is, in a year we see about 50 typhoons coming in and out of Japan. And Japanese people practically lives with these natural disasters with our limited amount of land. So let me share with you a bit more about the food self-sufficiency rate for Japan. So what is food self-sufficiency rate? How do we get these percentage numbers? This is how we see our food resource where we can grow within the country or we can cultivate or harvest within the country. How much from our own production can we feed our people? In Japan, we only feed 37%, but in Thailand, this is a very land of plenty. So Thailand can feed 200% of its population. So when you look at the population in Japan, there are 125 million people in Japan, but Thailand, we only have 70 million people in Thailand in terms of populations. Let's focus on these numbers at the moment. In Japan, the food and the resources that we harvest in Thailand can only feed 30% of our people, which means we need to rely on the other 63%. Or in other words, we can also say that it's not enough to feed 63% of the people in the country. So let's do some math. 37%, then 63%. I think that's about 70 million population, like Thailand's populations. So Thailand, we can feed twice of 70 million people. So we can feed everybody in Thailand and we still can feed another 70 million people. That's why we see 200%. It's not an actual fact, but I just want you to follow my thoughts because Thailand has lots of capability to feed people. And actually Thailand can help feeding Japan for the whole country. So this is our food perspective and the relationship between Thailand and Japan. And today's topic is one of the biggest economy in Thailand, which is rice, and also Japan. And both Japan and Thai people, we eat rice. And this is why I think rice is a very good example where everybody can see the same picture. So about rice, in Japan, we produce approximately 7 million tons per year, and Thailand produces 28 million tons per year. That's quite a big gap. And the emergency stock for Japan, we have about 1 million tons. When it is becoming expiring, we will not throw it away because we know that food is scarce and we know its value. So we will turn the food that is going out of shelf life turn it into energy. But what about Thailand? As far as I know, today we have about rice and sticky rice, a total of 5 million tons in the stock. We have a very big stock in Thailand, right? So let me take this opportunity to share with you some more information about the sustainability. So it also affects the pricing and the process feed. And please do not forget that we still need a lot of food. There are many other countries who need food. So please consider about maybe further processing to increase the value and to support other countries, while at the same time you can reduce the waste and lower the burden for the environment. I believe that rice can be a very good example. And this is the concept that we call mottainai in Japan. Mottainai is what we say when, oh, it's a waste, what are waste, for example. So we don't want it to turn into waste. We want everybody to understand the concept called mottai nai, right? If I just want to tell you that we have a concept called mottai nai, that we do not want to waste anything. We need to be frugal. We need to save up everything we have, especially if you work in food business. Mottai nai is the way. So this is the keyword. Please remember this keyword, especially when you are working in the food business. And whenever you design a new business, please do not let anything go to waste. Now let me go back to example in Japan. Besides of food, we also have other demands too. From COP26, back then we talked about the global climate. Last week actually, from last week COP26, I not really like that it was very bad because they say that we want to stop using coal power. I do not know what you think about coal, but in Japan, it affects the whole country very badly because in Japan, we use a lot of coal power plants, up to 76% of our power generated from coal. So why I say that stop using coal is very bad, because since when we started COP in Kyoto back then, and Japan set a new target to reduce our CO2 emission. Back then in Japan, there was a strategy to turn from coal to nuclear energy, but unfortunately, tsunami hit our Kagoshima nuclear power plant and it exploded, and there is no more or no other nuclear power energy production, and that's why we're still using and relying pretty much on the coal power generation. Now we started to see other opportunities in the bioenergy like bioethanol to replace other fossil fuel sources, and today we also have biomass to help us replace the coal power plants. But here we believe that it can be an opportunity for Japan, and we can see the policy from the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry from Japan, or we call them METI. They started to promote biofuel, and the reason why I talk about the energy sector because today is food theme, because they are very important. Both of them affect each other. It plays a very important role in zero waste, bio and CO2. So let me emphasize the most important thing in this page. Bioethanol. Japan started its policy since from 2020 or last year. They want to turn it into the next generation bioethanol. And by its definition, okay, so we need to understand what is the first generation. The first generation is today. We use corn, sugarcane, and cassava. And when the demand is higher, it affects the food price because these are staples, corn and sugarcane. It also affects human food price as well as animal feed price. So we want to prevent the price from surging. So in Japan, we started to use the new policy for the next generation of bioethanol. We say that it shouldn't be human food. The bioethanol source of energy shouldn't be human food. And today, the trend is, as you can see, that we can see hemp energy production. So we can start turning hemp into ethanol. And maybe we can turn it into CBD extract, but that's the current trend. But the main thing is we want to use alternative source, which is not human food, basically in order to control the food price as well as to support the demand in CO2 reduction. And this is what I would like to share with you. And please understand this point because it is interrelated, even though it is from Japan, but it will be the same other places in the world. And I believe that many other countries started to agree with Japan's government, and you will start to see this become more prevalent in your business in the near future. Now let's come back to Thailand. Let me give you a quick recap about Thailand 4.0, and there are 5 key pillars for Thailand 4.0 in our economic development. And first, S-curve, we have the next generation automotive and smart electronics, and we also have wellness tourism. And this is very important again. And our main point today is agriculture and food for the future. These are 2 things that we can really leverage on Thailand's strengths. And Thailand's strength is because we are the land of plenty. Thailand, we have a capability in producing a lot of agricultural producers. And this is our key strengths. When we combine these strengths, and let's have a look at these 2 things. Okay, these are where the risk we see risk that the producer can move their production base to other countries, especially in automotives and electronics. Their raw material doesn't have to come to Thailand, and especially for the medical tourism, especially and medical and wellness tourism, this sector has affected by COVID very badly, and they are in a tough situation at the moment. Now let's see where our potential is, and especially it affects our sustainability, because agriculture, Thailand, as I say, is a land of plenty. I really like to say this. Whenever I talk to Japanese business owner, do you know what Suvarnabhumi means? Suvarnabhumi means that the golden land. The golden land actually means the land of plenty. And I heard many stories from Chinese businessmen, and when they started in Thailand, they only have nothing. They had nothing, but they say that Thailand's land is very fertile. You can grow anything anywhere in Thailand. They even use a metaphor with the chopsticks. If you only have a pair of chopsticks, you can put it anywhere and it will grow into food. And that reflects how fertile, how rich our country is. Now, let me bring your focus to biofuels and biochemistry. This is our direction. I just want to show you that of all of this, you can see that our Thailand's policy is still moving towards the same direction. And as of the last year, we started to hear more about BCG economy, and it was part of our government's plan to promote the bio-circular and green economy, and this is aligned with the global trends, and we want to leverage on our resources, our food, and also using plants as an alternative source of an energy. And rather than just being source of the energy, it can be turned into many other things like bioplastics. And I believe that everybody have seen this, and here's the direction that we shared. Now, this is my last part for today's presentation. And I would like to share some of my experiences, and I would like to share with you some thoughts and the thought process as well as the strategy. So you can see from my example from rice management. And rice at the moment, so what do we have in Thailand? For rice, we also get the rice straws and paddy and husks, bran, and the rice itself. And we also have new rice, old rice, and depending on the season too. If we stop here from old rice, if it's too old to the point where it cannot be processed, what else can we do? Normally it will go to somewhere, but we need another plan, just like what we did in Japan. So we have a different way to manage the rice to make sure that all parts from the rice can be put into good use. We can turn it into biofuel and biodiesel and even bioplastic. It can be used as a source of energy. And more importantly, it can be turned into bioethanol, and it will last forever, except it has evaporated. But this is where we learn, and we want to keep this buffer stock in our mindset, and we need this to help us adjust and balance the demand supply, and at the same time we can use this to help us balance the pricing. Let me share with you some tips about bioethanol. In Thailand, we have 27 bioethanol production plants, and it can be categorized into two major sources of the raw materials: sugarcane and cassava. 50% each. And when you look at the rice, comparing with other plants' characters, for cassava plant, power plants, the facility for bioethanol for cassava plants, I think you can use the cassava bioethanol plants for rice. And one more thing I would like to share is the cassava ethanol plant. Normally they use the chipped cassava plant, and it costs 7 baht per kilogram. The 1 ton of chipped cassava can produce about 400 liters of bioethanol. Again, when you use rice, for rice, old rice, leftover rice that is about to expire, and even if it goes bad, you can still use it for ethanol. 7 baht per kilogram is still the guarantee price by the government. the government guarantees 7 baht per kilogram, right? So let's say it's the same price between rice and ethanol. The difference is here. The yield is pretty different. For 1 ton of rice, you can produce 600 liters of bioethanol. That's 1.5 times more than cassava, which means 1.5 times at the same cost. Imagine. You can reduce your cost by 30% automatically. So this is what I would really want to share with you today. You just have a little of curiosity, just change the way we look at different things. You know how to put things into different use. And then this is a very good alternative. And not just bioethanol, it benefits everyone. It helps the government, it helps the operator, it brings in a lots of opportunities. And this is my imagination. Let me call this concept the rice tree. And actually in the food business, we normally use the milk tree, right? Milk or dairy product. But because my experience is more into this business, actually I used to have an experience in dairy product. And in dairy product, you need to take care of the dairy farmers. And if you don't take good care of them, if you don't buy their product constantly, they cannot survive because you cannot really keep milk for a long time. It has a very short shelf life. So you need to rely on the milk processing and other players in the supply chain. That's the rule of the industry. Everybody in the milk industry know, but this is what Japan do. You know what the milk tree is. So besides of the fresh milk, we need to produce accordingly to the demand, and we have to categorize them by the aging, and we need to keep them and make sure that nothing goes to waste to make sure that the company is still profitable with the milk production. So when we get the milk, we can turn it into whipped cream, we can turn it into butter, and there's fresh milk, yogurts and cheese, and UHT milk that can be kept for a year or two, or we can turn it into evaporated milk. That it's like a tree, you can turn it into different products. So I use the same concept and call it into rice tree. So what can we do with rice? Based on the previous page, it can be allocated to our tree like this. So this is what I would like to propose. Here it is. You can fulfill, you can add more leaves to the plant. It can be turned into so many things, biofuel, biomasses, bioplastic. Nothing will go to waste. And these concepts allow us to be able to control the rice price in the market and make sure that it is at a competitive price. And we will have some extra buffer stock, and we can even turn it into bioenergy. And our food processing will be rested assured. Our farmer can be rested assured because nothing goes to waste. The government can make some more money. It can be kept for a long time, and it can help you reduce CO2. So all the good stuffs, right? Please remember this rice tree. And it's not strictly for rice. Every product, this concept can be applied to all products and all services. And in summary, this is for my rice business ecosystem, starting from rice straw, paddy, husk, bran, and even rice. And then after consumption, we can process it. And these two will help us close the loop with biomass and bioenergy. And here's the Japanese concept. I want to borrow the concept from Japanese government and apply it to Thailand. We can turn our paddy field into oil field. And this is very exciting. But we need your help. So besides of the public sector, we also need private sector, public sector, university, institute, and business operators in Thailand and overseas, and all the marketing and technology institution. If you see this potential in Thailand like I do, I would like to invite all of you to join us in Thailand. Together, we can help improve our agricultural produces in Thailand. We can help solving the problem for the world's society together right here in Thailand. And this is my summary. If we can do this, how many SDG goals we can support? Let's see. For SDGs, let me separate it into 3 parts: food and health and environment. And then the last one is the result or the outcome of number 1 and number 2.
Zero hunger นะ
Zero hunger. People are hungry, so we have to help reduce famine. So Thailand has a lot of leftover products. We can produce 200%, and the rest we should donate to others. And as I explained, Next about food health, which is food and health well-being, and we process, and this is how we can support the well-being. We use plant, we utilize good resource to produce good food. In terms of our environment, we have clean energy, the CO2, and don't forget about C. We have microplastic that destroy seafood or fishes. So if we can turn to degradable bioplastic like cellulose, this is how we can solve the problem in long term. And soil, we need to have we have to sort of preserve the soil. Otherwise, we don't have we'll have less results that result from the soil. And economic growth in terms of results and innovation, and apart from that, there will be sustainable cities and communities, and response for consumption and production. And finally, which is number 17, which I really focus on. And for the participants, you are all the private entrepreneurs, or you are representative from academic institution or public sector. So please look at Thailand. Please look at the capability of Thailand, and we have to work together. Thailand has rich fertile land, and if you come to Thailand, if you go to Suvarnabhumi airport, think about the golden land, the gold land. We have fertile land to help this world. And this concludes my presentation on approaches as one of the Thai Japanese sort of business person. Thank you.